All right. Welcome everyone to our final project showcase. We're super excited to have you all here. We have looked through all these projects and they're awesome. We're really lucky to be able to see our software engineering, data science, and product design alumni with their projects for us tonight. So super excited to have you here. Today, we're going to be functioning through the chat function and also our Q&A question. So if you at any point during the presentations have a question, please drop it in the chat. Please drop it in the Q&A. And I will be sure to make sure that it gets answered at the end. So the way we'll go is we'll just go one at a time. You'll be able to listen, see their full process of their projects, and then you'll have a few moments to ask questions at the end. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So first off, we have got Nick Johnson with his project, Whack-A-Mole.
Thank you very much. Let me get my screen sharing here. All right. So Whack-A-Mole is based on an old Flash game that I used to love when I was younger. The idea of it is basically a whack-a-mole game with featuring some avocados, hence Whack-A-Mole. And it's got roguelike and RPG elements mixed into it. So let's get logged in here. All right, and we're immediately presented with the main menu. I'll dive straight into a game so you can kind of see how that works. So this game is, I didn't realize I left some of my settings incorrectly, but that's okay. You'll see how this works. So the game is meant to be played with the numpad. So you see these 9 spaces representing the different keys on your numpad. And each enemy has an attack value on the left and a health value on the right. So every time you hit an enemy, it will hit you for its attack value, and you will hit it with your attack value. You can see my attack value down here on the bottom left, as well as my defense to protect me against their attacks. And you'll also see I have nothing equipped right now, which I'll cover in a second, but you can get some items to help with your quest. And then along the top, other details like your health, your remaining time, coins, and score. So using the numpad, I can attack these enemies and reduce their health until they are eliminated. And the longer you survive, the more difficult the enemies will be. So every 20 seconds, a new, more difficult wave of enemies will show up and come after you. So if your health or the time reaches 0, then the game will end. You'll get some stats about how you performed. And then you can also see where you ended up in the high score list as well. So that's kind of the basics of how the game functions. But then where it really starts to get fun, I think, is you can take the coins that you earn throughout the course of the game and purchase new items. So let's say I want to boost my offense. I can spend some coins on, let's say, a sledgehammer. And I'm going to equip that into slot 1. Now you see it down here, and my attack value is way up. So I can defeat enemies with a lot fewer hits. And then I can add in a defensive item like plate mail. And now I can not be hurt by enemies with a value up to 11. So I can last a lot longer in the game. And there's all sorts of different combinations that you can buy, as well as just packages of points. If you've already got some of the best items in the game, this is a good way to boost your high score even further. And then there are, I mentioned the settings earlier. So if you don't have a numpad, you can use the settings here because a lot of laptops don't have numpads anymore. So you can click on a space and type a key that you would prefer to use. To make sure that we're accommodating anybody who can't play with a numpad. So you can use QWE, ASD, that sort of combination, or whatever's comfortable for you. The game can also be played by just clicking on the holes to attack as well, but it's not as fast. It's not a good strategy. It's not a winning strategy. And then of course we have the high score list here again, and a lot of instructions on how to play. So that covers the gist of it. My personal favorite aspect of this, which is what made me want to build it in the first place, was the original inspiration would make you lose all your items and your progress once you were defeated. And in this case, not only do I retain my items and my coins and all of that, but if I log out and log back in, I'll still have everything that I've earned so far. So it's a constant forward progression instead of having to start over each time. This was built with React for the front end, Python and Flask for the back end, and then crucially, Redux for state management. That was really, really important because there are, as you can imagine, a lot of different states to manage. All of the enemies have their own values. You have your own player values, the time, the current score, basically everything required state management. And when you're juggling that many different states, then you need to have a good neutral location to put them in rather than in one of your components. So that was really critical and not something that I knew about going into this project. So I had to figure that out as I went. But yeah, this is the local version, so it runs a little more smoothly, but there is a deployed version if anyone would like to play. The address is here, whackамole.onrender.com. Feel free to hop in and give it a play anytime. It's been live for a few months and the high scores are daunting in there. So see if you can top the list. I see a question in here that I used to manipulate states. Yes, that was Redux. It's Redux. It takes some getting used to. It is not the most intuitive way to set things up, but once you get the hang of it, it is relatively simple and tremendously useful if you have a lot of states to juggle. On your way to play right now. Great, glad to hear it. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. If anyone has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to make, and it's far from my last game I'll make. I know that much. I'm in the middle of working on another one now. It's a long way away from being ready, but yeah, games are a really fun way to stretch your skills because it would require things to work on that you might not otherwise get to play with if you were making you know, I'll call it a more useful app than this one. So yeah, it's a fun way to expand the skills. Was it hard to implement Redux into your code? No, only because I went into this knowing I would need it. If I had gotten pretty far without it and then tried to like reverse engineer it and plug it in, that would have taken quite a while, not only to implement it, but to eliminate anything that might conflict with it. So I would recommend if you know you're going to make something that needs a lot of state management, know that before you get started and structure it in such a way that you can dive in head first with it rather than build it out afterward. Yeah, any other questions? No problem, you're welcome. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this was from the software engineering program.
So cool. Thank you for sharing with us. This was so awesome.
No problem, happy to.
If there are any other questions that anyone comes up with throughout the rest of presentations, please feel free to drop it and we'll just circle back to you, Nick, later.
Great, sounds good.
Awesome. With that, we will move on to a product design presentation we have called Building Early Money Habits. And it's actually really special because it is a dual project between Amber and Kathy. So you two ready to take it off?
I think so. Ready. One sec. All right. Can you guys see my screen? All right. All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Kathy, a fresh product design grad alongside with Amber. And we are proud to say that we are the first students to successfully collaborate as a team for a capstone project. So woohoo for us. We're excited and honored to introduce the captivating rebrand and redesign of a financial education solution tailored for young children. Originally known as Build Early Money Habits, the platform has undergone a remarkable transformation into Wizdom. Collaborating within a team empowered us to delve deeper into our research, resulting in a thoughtfully crafted user experience for a landing page and an impressive user interface strategy for the onboarding platform. So allow us to give a quick introduction to Rick, our financial wizard, who also happens to be my dad and the inspiration behind the brand. He's a legend in the captivating world of wisdom and a true master of numbers. He's transformed the topic of savings into exhilarating quests and the concept of budgeting into a delightful dance. If there's one thing every kid needs, it's a Rick by their side to make financial wizardry feel like a magical adventure. Our agenda for today is we're going to cover an intro to the entire Wizdom team, insights into the user experience design process, solutions within the user interface design, and our proposed steps for the future.
All right, so my name is Amber Adams. I am also a fresh product design grad. So today, along with Kathy, we're going to be presenting the first ever completed team project for the PD Flex Flatiron program. For our team, we have Corinne, shout out Corinne, who conducted the UX research, Kathy, who created user interface elements for color scheme and motion, and myself, who created the frameworks for user experience. For the first part of our presentation, I will mainly be focusing on the work that I created for the user goal experience. The project was based around designing an interactive website for children to learn about the importance of money and ways to create an engaging experience for them. The goals for this project were to conduct research to better understand what users are looking for, organize results to better understand the user's mental model, and create low and mid-fidelity prototypes to test with users. So our first step was to conduct a survey to better understand what users are looking for and things that are important to them. I created a Google survey, and our group decided 10 users would be our goal participation. We ended up surpassing this by reaching 13 users. We asked questions ranging from the age of their children to how they learn best. Some interesting insights we found were that the #1 device children used were tablets, and that even though our target range was 10 to 12 years old, we may need to design for multiple age groups, since 4 to 8 years old was a very close second place. So based on the research and information presented, we created a problem statement, which is children ages 10 to 12 years old need an approachable and fun resource to learn about money saving habits in order to feel prepared for their financial future as young adults. So once this information was collected, I started the process of organization. I conducted open card sorts of 2 users to better understand their mental model. I also created a site map for what the final product may look like, along with user flows to assist in the creation of prototypes. These are, this is the site landing page example, and then a user flow on the right. The third step was for the creation of prototypes and testing to see if they were usable. I created 3 test scenarios for users to test, which was sign up for the first class called Money 101, log into the student dashboard to reschedule the saving and budgeting class to the next available date, and log into the parent dashboard to check your child's progress. There were also some goals and metrics created to keep track of progress. Goals range from user recommendations to understanding the decision-making process. I also had metrics set up for the number of clicks it would take users to complete a task, and what screens they should reach to show the task was completed. So for the next couple of slides that are shown, they display the low and mid fidelity prototypes I created for users to test. I made note to make sure the screens were similar when creating the final products. They feature a landing page, calendar, progress tracker, and a class screen. So these are the examples. I tested 3 users for mid-fidelity. The final average clicks it took users to finish each task was 7 clicks for task 1, 8 clicks for task 2, and 7 clicks for task 3. Users liked the concept that was being displayed and how easy the tasks were to follow. Users made recommendations when it came to labeling certain icons, reworking the task scenario wording to make it more specific, and adding additional wireframes to make the prototype more interactive. For accessibility, there are portions that will be added in the final high fidelity. Some of these features include all text being above 16 pixels for visibility, all final colors complying with WCAG standards, alt text for final content, visual hierarchy to create consistency and organization, and notification screens on every task to help the users understand when a task has been completed. Take it away, Kathy.
All right, let's dive into the user interface design process. As Amber mentioned earlier, our team recognized the significant challenge through existing data and research feedback. Children need an engaging, interactive, and approachable tool to grasp financial literacy. My focus on UI design also highlighted a lack of clear brand identity and a seamless digital experience. Based on feedback from parents, a reward system and gamified platform approach proved to be the most appealing method for kids to interact with financial concepts. A primary parental concern when teaching young children about finance is maintaining their prolonged interest in the subject. Additionally, we conducted a study on artwork preferences. We wanted to ensure the kids would be naturally attracted to the artwork we used. And unmistakable favorite was Rick the Wizard, our iconic figure for the brand. Examining the direct and indirect competition was very valuable and revealed common design strategies and a noticeable absence of mobile-friendly financial learning platforms for kids. We wanted to also better understand and empathize with our target audience. Meet Alexis, age 10, who is active, curious, and values her friendships. This user persona represents a typical young user of the financial platform and provides insights into her needs, motivations, and challenges. This was our moral compass to ensure that all our design decisions in the product met the needs of our users, leading to a more successful and user-centered outcome. Here's a behind-the-scenes look at the rapid sketching and brainstorming process that brought our vision to life. From the early stages of the product redesign, the concepts of the coin and the wizard emerged as key components from the beginning. Presenting the brand style guide, the brand aims to evoke engagement, empowerment, enjoyment, and playfulness. Every design choice from typography to the color palette was meticulously crafted to evoke those feelings. So now a quick glimpse of the high fidelity prototype on the tablet view. The platform's designed to enthrall young minds like a captivating story, focusing on the subject of money knowledge. The account setup stages allow kids to customize their adventure by handpicking their avatar, selecting a cool nickname, and choosing their age group. Dashboard showcases quests or interactive games that make learning finance topics an exciting journey, and the live class button, aka the Wizdom Academy, was strategically placed at the bottom of the tablet for easy access. The Wizdom Academy page displays a clear call to action button to join the online class, and for being on time, kids earn Wiz coins, fostering a sense of accomplishment. The Wiz coin icon clickable at the corner offers more coin earning opportunities and an avatar upgrade marketplace fueling engagement. After testing with a teacher familiar with the target age group, adjustments were made. Specific instructions with personal language was essential. Rick the Wizard guides kids throughout the platform and issues warnings before class begins. The Wizdom Academy button evolved into a direct join class to ensure clarity, and changing the button's color guarantees it stands out against the vibrant background, preventing it from blending in. And then finally, the WizCoin button's redesign enhances functionality. Next steps on the UI side for the interactive platform would include a mobile view design to engage both kids and parents. Now, parents and kids can both enjoy the platform on the go. And looking past the 5-week course, we're considering a play with a friend concept to sustain user engagement and infuse a social dimension into the platform.
And then for my next steps for the design would be to apply the high fidelity interactions and colors to create a final look for the website, courtesy of Kathy. I would also be designing for other devices such as mobile and desktop. So in conclusion, there were a couple things that were most important throughout this process. Testing multiple times on a prototype is very important. Creating a space for children and parents to learn and be engaged is incredibly important. And teamwork can truly create a project that surpasses all your expectations.
Thanks for sharing. This is an awesome, awesome project. We've got one question. Were your little cartoons original branding made in Figma?
Sorry, what was the question again? It's kind of cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry. Question is, were your little cartoons original branding made in Figma?
No, it was artwork that was provided in Figma. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, she randomly like came to us, like it was like a week into the project, and she goes, I have a great idea. I found this guy. And we're like, it's a wizard.
Yeah, when I was doing the brainstorming, I thought of this whole story of, wizard helping, guide kids on the financial topics to make it fun. And I found this artwork, this wizard artwork on Figma.
Yeah, it's perfect. Very engaging for kids, as you have all shown. Do we have any other questions? Seeing people saying, as parent, I love this. Overall, your project is very well organized in detail. Very well done.
Awesome.
Great job. Great job. Well, if anyone has any questions, and like I said, you can feel free to drop and we will make sure that we will circle back and get them answered. Thank you again, Kathy and Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have got Sam Grasland telling us their data science project with the hurricane impact on Florida real estate.
Hey y'all. So let me get this going. Hi, my name is Salome Grasland. I go by Sam. I'm a recent graduate from the Flatiron Data Science program, and my capstone project was on hurricane impact on Florida real estate and value. Basically, my business problem was that Florida is constantly being struck by devastating hurricanes that absolutely destroy homes and really impact real estate. So my client was a real estate agency that wanted to know how best to invest in hurricane-stricken areas. So the solution I proposed was to use data from Zillow and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which I'm going to refer to as NOAA, to look at home value and wind speed from 6 different hurricanes. And this data ranged from 2004 to 2022. So I modeled this data, I trained it, and I tested on several different classification models. And I used model accuracy, F1 score, and AUC value as metrics to assess how well my models were performing. So since this was a classification issue, I had to engineer a target variable. My target variable was basically if there was a percentage change in the home value of more than 75% in the last 6 months after a hurricane, it was considered to be category 1, if not category 0. So on the right here, you can see basically anything in the blue was category 1, anything in the red was category 0. So I had to look at a couple features to correlate this target variable with. I looked at before values of homes. So how much were the homes going for 6 months before hurricane? The average daily wind speed. So what was the wind speed experienced during the hurricane? The fastest 2-minute wind speeds. What were the fastest gusts experienced during the hurricane? And finally, the size rank of the city. How large was this city? So I created these scatter plots to kind of help visualize how hurricanes move through Florida. So on the left here is a scatter plot showing Hurricane Charlie. So the dots that are yellow in color show higher wind speeds. So you can see that Hurricane Charlie really ripped through central Florida here. And the one on the right is Hurricane Irma. So the yellow dots here are more centered in southern Florida. So you can see Hurricane Irma really hit South Florida hard. I also looked at, the average wind speed for all the hurricanes. The largest hurricane by far was Hurricane Irma, with wind speeds topping out at a little over 91 miles per hour for the average wind speed. So that means for the entire day, average wind speeds of 91 miles per hour were experienced for that hurricane. And then the second largest being Ian, which just recently struck Florida. So my biggest concern was how was home value changing? So I looked at how home value was 6 months before a hurricane and 6 months after a hurricane. So for all hurricanes, there was an increase in home value. So since this was a classification issue, I made this confusion matrix. Basically, a true positive would have been that home value was predicted to increase and home value did increase. A true negative would have been home value was predicted not to increase and the home value did not increase. Finally, a false positive would have been home value was predicted to increase and a home value did not increase. And a false negative would have been home value was predicted not to increase, but home value did increase. So basically, for my client, I was equally concerned about false positives and false negatives. Because for my client, if my model predicted a false negative, this would have meant they would have possibly lost out on investment. If my model had predicted a false positive, this means that they could have possibly invested in an area and not seen any returns on that investment. So the model I ended up going with was an XGBoost model. My model did perform perfectly, meaning it was able to predict where there would be a home value increase. I have to say I had really good results because my data set was a little small. If I had a larger data set, I don't think I would have seen perfect model results. So to make sure that my model would work well with future hurricane data, I validated it using Hurricane Ian data, which was the most recent hurricane. So for my model validation, my model did perform with an accuracy of 0.74. So that means it was right 74% of the time. Finally, I looked at how features impacted model output. So the most important feature was size rank. This had the highest impact on model output. So these pinker values show that these values are more important. So a larger size rank had a higher impact on model output. The before values, interestingly enough, so home values that were smaller before a hurricane actually had a higher impact on model output. And then I also looked at wind speeds. So areas that were impacted by higher wind speeds did have a higher impact on model output, meaning that, so my recommendation was to look into larger cities and regions with lower than average home prices for my client. These were the best things to look into to see a return on investments. I also recommended to look into wind speed features because they did improve my model performance and they had a correlation with the target variable that was similar to that of size rank and before prices. And I also recommended to look into using the XGBoost model to attempt to buy homes after the next hurricane to see if the model is effective in making business decisions. Some ways I would improve this project in the future is to continue collecting data as new hurricanes hit Florida. That would be a great way to increase the numbers of values I have in my data set, and to also look at different regions that are impacted by hurricanes, such as Texas, to see just how flexible this model is. Thank you so much. Feel free to contact me at samgrasland@gmail.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. I will be dropping my LinkedIn link in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Sam. It was so great. Got a couple questions for you. How large was your training set?
So for my training set, I had a little under 1,000 values.
Awesome. Seeing impressive work. Very cool. Lots of compliments in the chat. Any other questions? All right. Again, like I've said, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to drop them. We'll make sure to circle back. If not, we will go ahead and move on. Thank you so much, Sam. We will move on to Nicholas Martin, who's going to be sharing his software engineering project, Exploremate, with us.
Hey, everybody. I just graduated as a software engineering from Flatiron, and I designed Exploremate. Have you ever had a trip coming up that you're super excited about with lots of destinations and always changing details? I know I sure have. I'm always traveling to new destinations, sometimes on the same trip and others on their own trip. Yet I always find it difficult to keep track of all the details. So I developed this Exploremate. Exploremate, the one-stop shop for all your travel planning needs. You can pick through a variety of the top-rated destinations around the world, plan out all the details of your upcoming trips, and search through various destinations. You can set light mode and dark mode. And before you actually sign in, you can search through destinations, but you cannot actually do anything with the destinations until you've signed in. So since I already have a profile with everything loaded, with information loaded on, so that way we can skip having any issues. For being able to plan out a trip, you can have multiple trips. A user can have multiple trips. They can edit every trip. They can delete their trip. They can add destinations. You can create a new trip. Call this one weeks. We'll travel August 10th, which already passed, but go ahead and change that to the 25th. 30, there we go. And we'll fall out and we'll stay at the west. We'll add a budget of 3,000. Party plan. And then we can add any destination. We'll go to New Orleans. We can also go to Montreal. Let's also add in Vancouver and Bryce Canyon. But if you wanted to, we could also add in Rio de Janeiro or Azerbaijan. It's got destinations from all over the world. And it searches it by the name. So it filters out anything with letters typed in. Head back over to the trip page. And you can see here that everything all the trips that I added or destinations that I added have been added successfully to the trip. And if we decided that, we don't really want to go to Bryce Canyon, we can just get rid of Bryce Canyon, get rid of Vancouver if we wanted to as well. Say we wanted to change this one. If we just wanted to change the accommodation to, let's do the Sheraton. Save that and it'll change it over to the Sheraton. Maybe we wanted to change out the budget. Go ahead and save the trip at 450 and boom, it saves and updates that trip. But maybe we decided this trip has been canceled and we're not going to go anymore. So we'll go ahead and just get rid of the trip altogether. Everything on the back end persists. I had the biggest struggle through this with making sure that my routes were all functionable with full CRUD and being able to implement custom routes as well to be able to get the information processed with my database the way that I needed to. Yeah, I believe that is pretty much covers everything that we can do with my trip. I'll open the floor to any questions.
Awesome project, Nicholas. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Absolutely.
Got some compliments. Really cool project. Very beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Oh, got one question. How long did it take you to finish your project?
Overall, it took about 5 weeks to get everything fully functional in the way that I had envisioned it. Had I had a little bit more time, and what I'll probably finish up doing is adding in a full calendar itinerary, so that way users can actually plan out in detail what they have actually coming up. And I am definitely going to get this launched so that a way other users will be able to use it in real time.
Where is this picture from? This full picture?
This is from Dubai.
Nice. Awesome. Very cool. Well, if there are any questions for Nicholas as we go on, please go ahead and drop them. You should launch your project. It is very cool. I would use it. Smiley face. Love to see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next up is going to take us home, Monica Marcano, telling us about her product design project, building early money habits as well. You ready to go?
Yep, ready to go. Share my screen here. Cool. So I did a little bit more kind of focused on the process versus my actual product. But yeah, Monica Marcano presenting the capstone project for product design. It is Build Early Money Habits. And this is a little glimpse of the final deliverables that I created. I also did mid-fidelity prototypes. So I didn't go into the high fidelity because I did the UX route versus the research or the UI, and I was working solo, so it was a little limited in that. Like we mentioned before, this is a product for kids ages 10 to 12 that teaches them financial literacy over a course of 5 weeks. It breaks it down into 6 different topics related to finance, and it is online, virtual, interactive. It's taught by instructors for a one-time fee of $30. And in addition to the deliverables that we were required to create for this project, we were also asked to use a project management tool. So kind of training us to prepare for that. And I broke up all my deliverables into 4 phases based on different stages of the design process. It did take me 2 months. I was planning on 1 month, but I was doing this part-time, and I'm in the Flex program too. So a little bit of delays here and there, but of course, finishing with the usability test. And the problem statement was pretty much provided by the prompt. So the Build Early Money Habits was lacking a digital experience. So it was on me I did do a little bit of preliminary research. A lot of my early deliverables were kind of research defining and discover phases. And that kind of informs and helps you with like the rapid sketches. So I was able to brainstorm some sketches from that, focusing on like navigation labels and user flows for registration that would allow for a payment and then a confirmation of payment for that $30 fee, and also to onboard their children into what I imagined as a student portal. And then accessing their first classes. So moved from paper to Figma in low fidelity, and then polished it a little bit with some copy, some images for placeholders and minimal color. But again, it is in mid fidelity, but this is what I used for my usability testing, which I did a moderated usability concurrent test. So meaning I asked my users to speak aloud as they worked through the little clickable prototype that I created. So I presented them with a task scenario, and I had 2 users that met the requirements through the screening survey that I did. They have kids in this age group, and they're used to like signing their kids up for online classes like this. So the 2 tasks were first registering and then onboarding into the first class. And I did do a mobile design, assuming that the parent would be the one signing their child up. But I think it's fair to say that a kid would likely be using a tablet. So that would probably be a later step. But my main key finding on the left is my first version. And then after I analyzed my usability tests, I came up with an iteration here. And the main thing was I measured some things like first click. So what's the first click my users made whenever I presented them with the task? How many clicks did it take them to finish the task? And then time on the task as well. And then I followed up with a questionnaire to get some of the qualitative data as well, which helped me kind of make corrections and edits. But the main one was my first click wasn't registration, despite that being kind of like what the task was. And I think the reason there was because I had it below the fold. So you did have to scroll on the left on that first iteration. So to correct that, I just added it above the fold in a bright, bold color that really stands out. It's like the first thing. So in future testing, it would be like testing if that worked, if that did in fact help it create a first click effect. But overall this was my first time, well, I guess my second time working with users, and main takeaways were to always plan for delays. When you're working with somebody else's schedule, I was like really nervous about having all of my materials prepared before I met with my users. And so I would finish the deliverables and then I'd have time to wait because obviously they weren't going to be like, cool, I'm ready. But I think it would be more helpful for me in the future to like make a feasible date in the future that would allow me time to create those materials. And then it kind of works in a little bit of accountability too. And then giving clear instructions for card sorts and usability tests, because a lot of people, like lay people, just aren't familiar with those types of tests and aren't even familiar with Figma. And just being really clear about expectations and also defining scope early on, because you're working on like a very small part of a very big picture, especially when you're starting from scratch like this. And so a simple little like Moscow method feature prioritization, which I ended up adding later on because I was like getting lost in all my ideas and directions that I wanted to go. And there's a final glimpse of my little mid-fidelity prototypes. If you guys want, I'm happy to drop the links if you want to do like the click through tour. And that's all.
Thank you so much for sharing. It looks awesome. Got some compliments on the screen too. A really good explanation of the in-depth process behind UX design. Looks great. Like the piggy in the video screen.
Yeah. I use like, oh, what is it? It's a plugin on Figma where you can get like free images that don't require licensing. Unsplash.
Gotcha. Insplash or Splash?
Unsplash.
Unsplash. Cool. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for any of our presenters? If you haven't, presenters, dropped your contact info, let's go ahead and do that now, just so people can connect with you on LinkedIn, reach out to you via email, whatever. I'll give a few minutes for that to go, but that kind of concludes our entire presentation. If no one has any other questions. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciated it. Hope you loved all of the projects that we had to share with you. Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you in the future at a different event. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording.